Hi everybody, this video is going to be lesson 4.4, which is talking about factoring trinomials, specifically factoring trinomials when a does not equal 1, although we will start with when a does equal 1. So this is an example of a trinomial where, well, it's a trinomial. It is a quadratic and there are 3 terms. And so I set up here factoring trinomials. They really are quadratic trinomials, so that's what we're focusing on. So if a equals 1, for example, x squared plus 9x plus 18, then we look for the factors of a times c that add up to b. And the reason this is a special case is because if it's a times c, then like the a is just 1. So 1 times 1 times 18 is 18. So in this case, a times c is 18. And if we think about, okay, how can we do a factorization of 18 and have it add up to 9? So when I talk about factorization, I'm talking about like, okay, 1 times 18, or 2 times 9, or 3 times 6, 4, that does not go in, 5 does not go in, 6, we're back to these. So we're going to look for which one of these is going to add up to b. Well, b is 9. And so if I look at this, 3 times 6 is 18, but 3 plus 6 is 9. And so then my factors are just x plus 3 and x plus 6. Now, another thing that made this an easier one was that everything's plus, and so it's just plus. So that's how we do it if it's a super, super easy problem. We just take a, which is 1, times c, which is 18. We find the factors that add up to the middle term. All right, well, what is not so easy? What if there is an actual a? So now, instead of a 1x squared, we have a 2x squared. What would we do then? Well, if a and or c are prime, so in this case, a is prime, c is not, but we can do guess and check. If a and c are prime, we can easily do guess and check. And what that means is I'm going to skip over this whole AC thing for now, and I'm going to do guess and check. Well, how do I do guess and check? Well, I start off with 2x squared. That has to be a 2x times an x. So I'm kind of setting up my parentheses how I know they're supposed to be. And now I'm going to think about that 6. Well, what could go for the 6? Well, it could be 1 and 6, or 6 and 1. It could be 2 and 3, or 3 and 2. And so we need to figure out which ones it is. Well, let's just say I tried 3 and 2. And again, they're all pluses, so I can do a plus and a plus. That's my guess. Now my check part is I'm going to distribute it. 2x squared and 4x and 3x and 6. And so then that's going to be 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Well, we needed a 13, not a 7. So that doesn't work. That's the guess and check part of it. So we have to now erase that or cross it out or whatever and go for another one. So I'm going to do that. And so again, I have a 2x here, I have an x here. I have to fill in this blank and this blank. I know they're pluses because they're all pluses here. I also know I'm trying to get to 13. And so, yes, I can do a blind to guess and check, but I can also do sort of a thoughtful guess and check because I know in my head 2 times 6 is 12, and that's pretty close to 13, and this just has to be a 1. So I did guess and check again, but I kind of made it more thoughtful. So this now is 2x squared. That's a 12x. That's a 1x. So let me write this down. I have 2x squared plus 12x plus 1x plus 6. Now that is 13x. This is the correct answer. So when we have a prime number, we can do guess and check. It's not too difficult because if a is prime, we just have to do our guessing and checking with c. Now, some people really don't like guess and check, and they want to have kind of like a certain way that always works. AC method will always work. Another way to call that is splitting the middle term. And we do that if neither A or C are prime. Well, actually, in this case, I came up with this is a prime, but that's okay. We're going to do the AC method. The way we do the AC method is similar to this top example. We look for the factors of A times C that add up to B. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to take A times C, which in this case is going to be 5 times negative 6, which is negative 30. Now, my factors of negative 30 could be negative 1 and 30, negative 2 and 15, negative 3 and 10, 4 does not go in, negative 5 and 6, and then we're back to 6, 5, whatever. Okay, so these are possible combinations, or the negatives, like positive 1 and negative 30, positive 2, negative 15, positive 3, negative 10, positive 5, negative. Okay, so which one of those would add up to positive 13? Well, this one adds up to positive 13. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this, this trinomial. And instead of calling it plus 13x, I'm going to call it plus negative 2x plus 15x. Let me show you. So I'm going to keep my 5x squared where it is. And I'm going to have two new blanks here. And then I'm still going to have my minus 6 on the end. Now, my two new blanks I'm talking about are a negative 2x and a 15x. Okay, that's the first step in splitting the middle term. Now, next thing I want to do is I have to do factoring by grouping. That means I group these together, and I group these together, and I look for a GCF. And so now if I look for my GCF, well, in the first pair here, x is the only thing that can come out. X is my GCF. So I have x times 5x minus 2. Okay, I factored out an x. In this one, my GCF looks like 3. So I can take out a 3. And when I take it out, I get 5x minus 2. Okay, now notice something. I have a 5x minus 2 here, and I have a 5x minus 2 here. That means, and I have a plus. That means that 5x minus 2 is now a GCF. So now I'm going to factor out the 5x minus 2 because it's a common factor of both of these terms. And when I factor it out of the first one, I have an x, and when I factor out of the second one, I have a 3. This now is my final answer. This is my factorization. I could check it because kind of like guess and check, it's just always a good idea to check your answer, right? So I get 5x squared plus 15x minus 2x plus 15x minus 2x is 13x minus 6. It works. So this is the AC method. We're going to do a couple more examples. Look at this one. This one is huge. If I multiplied 16 times negative 6, I would get a negative 96, right? Oh my gosh, that's such a huge number. I could do it. I absolutely could do it. But look, is there a GCF we can start off with to like make our problem a little bit simpler, right? So I can see at least 2 can come out. Can anything bigger? Can 4? No, I think 2 is it. So I can at least factor out a 2. And I'm going to do that because that's just going to make my problem a little bit easier. Maybe not a lot easier, but at least a little bit easier. Okay, so I factored out that 2. That makes that easier. Now I'm going to have to remember when I give my final answer, I have to keep that 2 in my final answer. So don't forget about it. But now my AC is 8 times negative 3. That's negative 24. And so my factors of negative 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 5, no, and then we're going back the other way. But of course, one of these has to be negative. So, you know, I'm going to think about that. I just didn't write it down, but if I want to, I can write that down. Now, which ones add up to negative 10? Well, this pair adds up to 10, but if I change the signs, then this is a plus and this is a minus. Now that adds up to negative 10. Okay, so I'm going to use positive 2 and negative 12. All right, I'm going to take this. I feel like I shouldn't have tacked out that GCF. I feel like that's maybe confusing some of you. We'll do at least one more example, so don't worry about that. I'm going to take this down here, and I'm going to rewrite it. And I have 2 times 8x squared plus 2x minus 12x minus 3. Okay, let me just go back and show you again what I have. The 8x squared is the same. The minus 3 is the same. The only difference is the 2x and the negative 12x, because 2x and negative 12x add up to be a negative 10x, so it all works out okay. All right, that's my first step. My next step is to group this pair together. And now I have this minus. I'm gonna put a plus here, because you know some of you call it plus minus, plus negative. I'm gonna put a plus there, and I'm gonna group these together so I don't lose my negative signs. Keeping my 2. GCF. What's my GCF here? Well, an x for sure, but also a 2. So I have a 2x times 4x squared plus 1. I'm sorry, 4x plus 1. Then I have a plus. Then I have a negative 3 and 4x plus 1. I have a bunch of parentheses, right? That's why I was reluctant to factor out that 2. Like I said, we'll do some more, so don't worry about that. Notice now, though, what we have a 4x plus 1 and a 4x plus 1. That means 4x plus 1 is a GCF. All right, I'm going to keep my 2 out front because I'm always keeping that out front. I have my 4x plus 1, which I just identified as a GCF. When I take out that 4x plus 1, I have a 2x here and a negative 3 here. You can say plus negative 3 or you can say minus 3, either way. Now, I'm done. I want to double check it because I feel like that's really important for some of us just to kind of get a handle on it. So if I do this, I have my 2. I have 8x squared and minus 12x and plus 2x and minus 3. So I'm running out of space, but I'm going to write down here. 2 times 8x squared minus 12x and 2x is 10x minus 3. Now, I'm going to distribute this out because I just want to double check the whole thing. So I have 16x squared minus 20x, because I'm distributing, minus 6. All right, let's double check. Is that the same as what I started with? Yes, it is the same exact thing as what I started with. So I did it right. All right, let's back up. What's my answer then? My answer is right here. Let me do some erasing. Okay, everything I just erased was like the checking my work thing. This is the actual answer. The factorization of this trinomial is 2 times 4x plus 1 times 2x minus 3. Let's do one more problem. Let's look at number 4. We have a times c. That's 5 times negative 12. That's negative 60. Negative 60 could be negative 1 and 60, negative 2, 30, negative 3, 20, negative 4, 15, negative 5, 12, negative 6, 10, negative 7, no, negative 8, no, negative 9, no, negative 10, already there. Okay, so here we go. We want to look for the ones that add up to negative 4. Oh boy, negative 4. Oh, down here on the end. That's a 10. It's kind of messy, but that's a 10. So it was negative 6 and 10, but we're looking for a negative 4. So it's actually going to be positive 6 and negative 10. All right, so that means when we rewrite this, I want to rewrite it as 5x squared minus, instead of a 4x, I'm going to say, actually let me say plus 6x minus 10x. And then we have a minus 12 on the end. I will say it does not matter the order of these. If you want to say negative 10x and positive 6x and in the other order, that's okay. It will not mess anything up. It will still work out in the end. Okay, so I have those. They add up to negative 4x. I'm going to group them. I'm going to put a plus sign in between there. I'm going to look for a GCF. Okay, 5x squared and 6x. The only GCF they have is an x. So that's 5x plus 6. Now, on this one, at least a negative 2. Is there anything higher than? Nope, negative 2 is it. Negative 2 times 5x plus 6. Okay, notice you should always, and we do, have these two things that repeat. That means we are on the right track. That means we are doing things correctly. So I factor out that GCF, which is 5x plus 6, and I get x minus 2, and that is my factorization. I can always check it and double check to see that that matches up with this because I have 5x squared minus 10x plus 6x. Minus 10x plus 6x is negative 4x and a negative 12. And so there you have it. Okay, I've done the harder ones. This one is actually kind of easy. Will you take a second and we'll try to see if you can do this one, and then I'll go through it with you. Okay, your final answer should be 2x plus 1 times x minus 3. What I did, I took AC and got 6 and 1. It has to be a negative 6 and a positive 1 to add up to negative 5. So that's 2x squared plus 1x minus 6x minus 3. Or you could have had the minus 6 first and the plus 1 second. That's okay. Now I take my grouping and I factor out GCF here, which is 2x plus 1. I take that out and I get the x minus 3. Now, some of you need to get this written down. So let's do that. Take a minute to write down these 6 steps, and then we're done with the video. We will be working on factoring for weeks, months, forever. Factoring is really integral, very important to algebra, because it's algebra. The definition of algebra is solving equations, and the way we solve equations often is by factoring. So we will work on this together in class, but this gives you a couple examples that you can go back and look at.